Do the 76ers have more control over the draft than initially thought with the number 3 overall pick and the decisions there? We'll talk a little bit about that in a report from Brett Siegel, as well as the Mavericks potentially trading for Jrue Holiday in a deal that's done. And is KD to the Spurs all but already for certain? We're going to talk about it all and more on today, NBA Central.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host there, Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. So this one comes from Brett Siegel, who talks about the NBA draft and the power that the 76ers really do have with the draft, saying this: all options are on the table right now for Daryl Morey and his front office, as Philadelphia has already been in contact with several organizations who are interested in expanding trade talks for the third pick, sources said. It's worth mentioning that the 76ers aren't giving indications that they will be moving on from their core group of Embiid, George, and Tyrese Maxey this offseason. Other prospects may prove greater impact right away, but is Bailey's potential and star-like qualities too much to pass up on? Many questions loom large in Philadelphia with the 2025 NBA draft nearing. So it seems like right now that a lot of teams are kind of wondering and guessing what the 76ers are going to do with the number 3 overall pick, if this pick is something that does end up becoming available. And the 76ers really do expand those trade talks. It's going to change the draft board quite considerably if a team moves up that wasn't necessarily expected to be up that high to get Ace Bailey when it comes down to it, or any other prospect for that matter. Now, I personally am of the mindset that the 76ers have a young core that they could be building, right? Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, you add a player like Ace Bailey to that, even though there's some positional questions there. You now have 3 young players that you can start building something around, even if Joel Embiid is not healthy. Yes, you still have Paul George on your roster. Yes, you still have Joel Embiid on your roster, but it is something that you can start looking towards and building, something, a future in case Embiid is unable to stay healthy. So to hear that the 76ers may hold the key to the 2025 draft, it's kind of interesting. Right now, it depends on how far they're willing to move down. And, to hear Brett Siegel point out that the 76ers very well couldn't look to trade down to get a more proven prospect, it's like, okay, at that point, how far down are they moving? What other assets are they looking at getting when it comes down to that as well in that draft? And those are all things you have to look at, right? I think a team like the Brooklyn Nets that have a lot of picks and they're looking to stack young talent. Yes, they already have a very high pick in this draft in the top 10. And with their 4 first-round picks, is that something potentially that the Philadelphia 76ers could value, right? Could it be a combination of number 8, number 19? How far are the 76ers willing to go? Is it number 19 and the 26 and 27 picks? Like, how far are the 76ers willing to go for that proven NBA talent to add to this core that they have? And that's a question that you have to ask yourself. Again, not a question that I would be asking. I'd be taking Ace Bailey and just dealing with the repercussions at that point in time and figuring out your timeline as it goes, right? But it seems like the 76ers are also evaluating other players in this draft as well. According into the same report, that along with Ace Bailey, the 76ers are evaluating VJ Edgecombe, Trey Johnson, Kaman Malawak, and Con Knuppel. These are the players that they're also looking at in that spot there. And 2 of those guys would definitely be a reach. Kaman, somebody who previously was slated to go pretty high up in this draft, seems to be falling in most mocks with private workouts and things like that. But if Kaman's the guy that they end up taking at 3, that drastically shifts the landscape of the NBA draft. Make no mistake about it. And if they take Khan, that's another player that was shifted. So, it comes down to what's happening here. And the conversation around whether the 76ers should trade the pick is a hugely relevant question here. Now, do they just keep number 3 and take whoever they have number 1 on their board that they think can help them out? That's a possibility and a potential here. Make no mistake about it. But I think the 76ers do seem like they're going to be open up for business. What does that mean for their team is the biggest question. And what does that mean for the draft landscape? Because how far are you willing to go down? We've heard teams like the Brooklyn Nets do want to use their number 19 pick and Cam Johnson to get back into the lottery. That's more than just back into the lottery, right? The Oklahoma City Thunder are a team that's willing to package both their first-round picks to move up, but is that enough to get it done? And would they even want to pick that high? Like this is going to be one of the more interesting storylines to watch. Of course, the Kevin Durant trade that could go down in the draft, which we'll get into more here in a second, is one of the biggest things to watch heading into the 2025 draft. But outside of just that, what the 76ers do with number 3 is going to be wild to watch, because I tell you what, the 76ers are a franchise that has not garnered a lot of faith from their fan base with some of the moves that they've made and some of the players that they moved off from and brought in, things like that, especially with the Paul George, and that not working out at all as of yet, right? So there's some questions already in doubt from that fan base, but if you move down from number 3, you better hope whoever you still get or the assets you get, you either stacking yourself up with assets or you better be sure of who you trade down to get, because listen, this is not a time where you need to get a lot of things wrong. This is the time where you need to be getting things like this right. You were blessed to be able to get the number 3 pick. And so now to be potentially looking to move on from that in a time period where me and many other pundits think, no, you should be keeping this number 3 pick and adding that influx of young talent. Let the positions work themselves out at some point. But stacking young talent is something that is a luxury that a lot of teams don't have, and the 76ers have an opportunity to do that. And for them to pass up on that, that'd be crazy to watch. So whether it's VJ Edgecombe, whether it's Ace Bailey there, taking Trey Johnson there at number 7 as well would be kind of crazy in a way. But, we'll see what happens there if they take him at number 3. So let me know what you guys think on this down below. Hearing that the 76ers really kind of hold a lot of the keys to what could happen here in this draft with the 2025 draft. Many people have said the real draft starts at number 3 or number 4, depending on how you're looking at it. But it could start at number 3 with the 76ers and they potentially moving off this pick to maybe get something that they value a little bit more later in this draft. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, I did talk about a move that could happen in the draft that really could shape this offseason as well, and that's Kevin Durant. Reportedly, a couple of days ago, we heard that the Suns want to get something done by this draft because they want to try to get back into this draft. Bill Simmons floated something out recently saying that Bill Simmons feels like a trade that sends Kevin Durant to the Spurs may already be done, that he thinks that it's already be done, saying this: I wouldn't be surprised if KD to the Spurs is done already, and they just haven't announced it. Basically, they agreed on specifics, just announced it on the week of the draft. This goes back to the Giannis thing. I think they trade KD for KD because it just costs less. They'll be able to be real competitive and maybe go a couple of rounds in the playoffs, but they're also going to keep number 2 pick and do it that way, which is my prediction. Now, first of all, they're going to keep the number 2 pick. Now, that's not something that we've heard a lot about. Now, listen, that's great. The Spurs should not be looking to give up the number 2 pick. If you keep the number 2 pick in this draft, you trade for Kevin Durant as well, I'm telling you what right now, that's a Spurs team that better damn well make the playoffs. Now, there's, of course, questions in the West and the depth in the West and things like that. Now, he did say that he did not have any inside information, so this is just, a thing that he's talking about and speculating on. But if Kevin Durant ends up going to the Spurs, how good does that make the Spurs team? Does that make them a team that legitimately has a chance to go far in the playoffs, a round or 2 or whatever is said there? We'll see what happens there. But it seems like the Spurs, as well as some teams with Antetokounmpo, that they're fine with not extending him, and that came from Jake Fisher saying this: it's not uncommon 2 years and change later to hear that some potential suitors are willing to make trade pitches for Durant with no assurances than the 36-year-old stays beyond the 2025-26 season. The risk of approaching it as a one-year rental as Durant enters the final season of his current contract at $54.7 million is theoretically offset by the idea that a trade outlay required to get him would be much less daunting than it was for the Suns. So, if teams are fine with having Durant as a one-year rental, that goes a lot. And with the Spurs keeping the number 2 pick in this draft, that actually just gives them, it doesn't really change their, I've been looking at it as why the Spurs would want to jumpstart their rebuild right with this, but it gives them that year of, hey, let's get into playoff contention. Let's get these players what it feels like, how it takes to compete for playoff basketball, and then let the chips fall where they may at that point in time. So if that's where the Spurs sit at, or any other team that's willing to trade for Kevin Durant, it makes some sense. Now, I want to be clear here. This is all speculation by Bill Simmons. It's not Bill Simmons reporting on anything that he's heard, seen, or that anybody else is talking about. And Bill Simmons is somebody who he speculate. Like Bill Simmons, keep in mind, as much as he's respected in this league, and he should be, he is somebody who still is a fan and does speculate just as a fan when it comes down to it. So you got to take that for what it's worth overall too. But if the Spurs and the Suns already have something worked out, and that's just going to be announced the week of or the day of the draft or at the draft, whatever happens there, I mean, great. Get it done. Focus on your offseason at that point. Let's get the speculation out the way. I do think if Kevin Durant is moved by the draft, that's going to accelerate maybe some teams in their pursuit of Giannis, because at that point in time, like a team like the Rockets, who reportedly, or even the Raptors, who reportedly were in on either Giannis or KD, they're going to put some pressure on those talks then and maybe move on to other scenarios if the Suns are dragging their feet. I'm sorry, if the Milwaukee Bucks are dragging their feet on actually trading Giannis Antetokounmpo. So it still seems like Kevin Durant is going to be the big first chip to fall in the NBA as far as big names move this offseason. It seems like very well could go to after the draft as teams looks and go over things, but it seems like Kevin Durant is going to be that first big chip move, and how that reverberates through the rest of the NBA with some of these other big deals that we've heard about and that have a potential of happening. That's going to be the fun part to watch in all of this. So we shall see what happens here. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you think the Spurs make a move for Kevin Durant at all? And if it does happen, do you think it happens sooner? I mean, we're 2 weeks away from the NBA draft. So, I mean, some of these things are going to start going down here sooner rather than later. And I can't wait to see how that shakes out for the Spurs and whatever happens here. But let me know what you guys think on that down below. Now, we got a couple of news items from the Dallas Mavericks, right? We heard yesterday that Jason Kidd could be, that the Mavs were more than likely going to turn down the New York Knicks' request to interview Jason Kidd for their head coaching position. But this one came out from Brian Windhorst yesterday. It says, the way that I describe it is there's mutual intrigue on both sides. So there is some mutual interest there. Now, we've talked about Jason Kidd using any leverage that he can get to get more power within the organization. And so, it's no surprise that him and his agency or whoever would float out some intrigue in going to the New York Knicks to maybe gain a little bit of power there so that the Dallas Mavericks feel like, hey, there's a legit chance he could want to leave. But then again, the Mavericks still do hold the power in that. He has a 2-year contract extension, with 2 years still left on his deal with the Dallas Mavericks. So, I mean, they can definitely choose not to let him go, and it is what it is there. Now, if Kidd wants to try to force his way out of Dallas, I don't see them trying to hold on to him if he just doesn't want to be there, but you have the chance and the opportunity to be part of the beginning of Cooper Flagg's career, right? So it's that. What do they expect to do with that, right? What does Kidd want to do with that? That's a question. But while Jason Kidd took the Mavericks to the finals in 2024, there's still do you view him as a championship level coach? Because I think there's some questions there, right? Talked about that a little bit over on Locked On NBA. Like, yeah, he went to a finals, but I don't look at him as this coach, like this amazing, like championship level coach. But, maybe the Knicks see that as somebody who can come right in, that has that experience and coach this team the way that they needed to be coached. But let me know that there's a little extra wrinkle to that. But we're going to talk about this proposed trade that lands the Dallas Mavericks, Jrue Holiday, which we know that they're looking for a point guard while Kyrie Irving is healing from his injury. And this one, it's an interesting trade proposal. It says that the Mavericks would trade Daniel Gafford, Klay Thompson for Jrue Holiday and a lottery-protected 2027 first-round pick. This does work perfectly under the cap rules when it comes down to it. And I haven't really thought about the Mavericks moving on from Klay Thompson, to be 100% honest with you. But with Klay's deal and both these deals kind of setting up to be expiring deals for the Celtics that are looking right now reportedly to get under that second tax apron, and looking at the forward momentum, of course, with those contracts, maybe this is a little bit of an enticing deal for the Boston Celtics. Again, it's going to be a flyer of a year for the Celtics reportedly, right? Like, you don't expect them to really compete in the East without having Jason Tatum for the majority of the year. We still don't know what's going to happen with Jaylen Brown and his meniscus and things like that. I don't think we've heard any big updates on what's going to happen with that. So all those things shape up to be like, okay, do the Celtics take on deals like this to gain something, right? Do they take on something like that to kind of gain that flexibility that they need cap-wise? That's a question that remains there. They get off the Jrue Holiday contract, which is a big contract for a player that's kind of still very productive, make no mistake about it, but a little decline, right, when it comes down to that, when it comes down to his production and even his defense at times. Now, Klay Thompson does have another year on his contract after this year at $17.7 million. Daniel Gafford is expiring at the end of the season. So that's what the Celtics will be looking at. Them combined make about $30 million, and maybe you can look to flip one of those in another deal if you need to get further money off your books. So maybe that's the benefit for the Celtics there. But look out. The Celtics are going to be making moves. I think most people feel like Jrue Holiday, Kristaps Porzingis, they're both going to be shopped and moved around. And I guess we'll see. Does the Dallas Mavericks' desire to get a point guard that can fill in here while Kyrie's out lead them to moving Klay Thompson and a Daniel Gafford? Let me know what you guys think on the prospects of that happening when it comes down to it. And the Celtics giving up a lottery protected pick in this one in 2027. So that means that, whatever happens in 2026, they keep that. They'll have Jason Tatum, hopefully completely healthy for 2027 and the team back as they look to hold on to their core. So that pick probably isn't going to be great. The Mavericks get the roster balance that they want here, and the Celtics get some cap relief. So let me know what you guys think on that down below. That's my time for today. Make sure you guys are following us at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything NBA related and basketball related. And I'll catch you guys the next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.